In 1882, the famous English writer Oscar Wilde came 4,000 miles to Mississippi. It cost him a boat ticket and 2 weeks' time. In 1882, the famous New York minister, Henry Ward Beecher, came 1,000 miles to Mississippi. It cost him a railroad ticket and 3 days' time. And in 1882, this infamous man came only 400 miles to Mississippi. It almost cost him his life. Wanted in 7 states, dead or alive, a $10,000 reward on his head. But Jesse James risked his life, left his hideout in St. Joseph, Missouri, rode 400 dangerous miles to the south, leaving Missouri, passing through Arkansas, down to Mississippi City, Mississippi. What drew a writer, a preacher, and an outlaw to this remote place? They all came to see the Boston strong boy, John L. Sullivan, challenged for the heavyweight championship of the world. This is the man Sullivan has to beat, bare-knuckle champion Irish Paddy Ryan. Wax on his mustache, but iron in his fists. On February 8, 1882, Irish Paddy stalked into the ring to, as he put it, dispense with this boy Sullivan. For 8 rounds, Sullivan and Ryan clubbed away at each other. Then suddenly in the 9th round, the upstart challenger smashed his fist to Ryan's jaw, and John L. Sullivan became the new bare-knuckle champion of the world. 2 months after the fight, Robert Ford shot Jesse James in the back of the head while Jesse was hanging a picture in his home in St. Joseph, Missouri. 1882. America was in the second half of a 200-year boom that would take it from a weakling colony to world power. Football had just been invented, and baseball pitchers were still throwing underhand. Boxing was illegal in most of the country, but Americans loved it. It was the spectator sport, Americana in the raw. Calling the 1882 brand of boxing a sport is really a kindness. Barely organized mayhem would be closer. Bouts were held in bar rooms, on barges, and deep in the backwoods. Wrestling and gouging were commonplace with no gloves on the hands. The brawls also had no time limits. They usually ended with the stronger man having literally disabled his opponent. And in 1882, John Lawrence Sullivan had proved that he could probably, as he put it, lick any son of a bitch in the world. At 5 foot 10 inches, he was not quite a giant. But in his first 7 years as champion, Sullivan overwhelmed all of his 23 opponents in 6 rounds or less. He drank under the table all those men he didn't fight. Here is John L. without his handlebar mustache, posed in front of his favorite hangout, a saloon. But in 1888, a threat appeared in Sullivan's rosy future. Jake Kilrain, who figured he could easily beat the rum-soaked champion. The Sullivan-Kilrain fight is the most famous bare-knuckle contest ever held. These are the first photographs ever taken of a fight. These are the only photographs of a bare-knuckle contest. These are the only visual records of John L. Sullivan in action. 23rd round, middle of the Mississippi woods. Temperature 100 degrees. The roughneck crowd didn't have to pay. All the money to be made on the fight was in the $10,000 side bet between Sullivan and Kilrain. The man with the shaved head is the world wrestling champion and Sullivan's trainer, Wild William Muldoon. Notice John L.'s gloveless right hand. By the way, they are not fighting on canvas, but on good old American dirt. 75th round. 2 hours and 16 minutes after it began, the savage fighting ends under the broiling Mississippi sun. Jake Kilrain lies on the ground, too battered to rise. The great Sullivan-Kilrain fight is over. It will be the last championship fight fought with bare knuckles. Soon after the fight, the victorious Sullivan had a surprise in store for him. It took 16 brave men in blue to arrest the feared champion for having engaged in an illegal prize fight.